might have been one of those guys who didn't choke out his victims all at once, let them gasp and sputter a little, and then, teeth bared, reapplied the pressure. It was all in the thumbs, and Albert Anastasia had powerful thumbs. All of his methods involved getting up close and personal. Dishing out death was personal, even intimate, and was best administered high and tight. He wanted his victim to smell the garlic on his breath. And even as a kid, he was the killer of choice for the bigs, including Al Capone himself. The third thing you need to know is that, for a large part of his gangster career, Albert Anastasia was a double threat. He was the underboss and then boss of what would one day become known as, spoiler alert, the Gambino crime family. Anastasia was a guy who, with his younger brothers, ruled the Brooklyn waterfront. And, as a second job, he ran Murder Incorporated for Lucky Luciano, a gang of professional killers that worked outside the five-family system, supervising a team of pro gunmen, homicidal maniacs every one, once freelance killers, now under exclusive contract. Anastasia's crew of killers. These guys, they were everywhere. They could hit you anywhere in the country, and in a lot of places around the world, too. Rule of thumb was, you can't run. They'll catch you. Can't hide. They'll find you. Best to not fuck up in the first place. That was their rep. There was downtime, too. Albert's boys whiled away the hours sipping espresso and playing cards in the back of a Brownsville, Brooklyn candy store, like firemen waiting for the alarm to go off so they could have some excitement. There would be talk that Albert's personal body count was exaggerated because a lot of guys whacked in his name, but not with his expressed approval, which is a load of bullshit. The idea was that if a boss wanted someone whacked, he contacted Albert sent out a crew of gunmen, and the job was done. Obviously, Albert himself could have anyone whacked at any time he wanted. In fact, poor choices in this regard contributed to his downfall. It was understood that freelance killing was forbidden. You didn't whack anybody without Albert's approval. These things had to go through the proper channels, and in this way the higher-ups were protected. There is no paperwork to refer to, but word was the killers in Albert's employ were given a weekly salary of $200 and then a bonus for a job well done. If they killed for their own personal reasons or took a job on the outside, they themselves could be subject to the final discipline. Albert's boys didn't just dish out death. They dealt out fear by the bucketful as well. The idea was to let small-time hoods know that crossing the line was a mistake. The more afraid the soldiers of Brooklyn were, the less actual killing would be necessary. Make the coroner puke, Anastasia would say. So, Murder Incorporated's trademark was cutting off its victim's dick and shoving it in the corpse's mouth, something that made hits particularly terrifying to survivors. Louis Pretty Amberg, whacked in 1935, was a good example. The Jewish killers on the team called it the Schmeckel Special, the bris with no mole. Although Murder Incorporated was unparalleled in its body count, it was never a huge organization. As it was done back in Sicily, Lucky Luciano set it up purposefully outside the five-family structure. In the days before the RICO bullshit, all you needed to skate on a contract kill was plausible deniability. A separate organization doing much of the killing served to insulate the bosses from the blood. Murder Incorporated was not only outside the five families, but also outside the Sicilian Mafia as well. A large chunk of organized crime in Brooklyn back then was Jewish, and those guys were allowed to use Albert's services. Anastasia's second-in-command, Louis Lepke Buchalter, was Jewish, and since many of the boys were originally in Lepke's crew, a large percentage of the killers in the back room were Jewish. Everybody sipped espresso and played cards together. Brooklyn was the polyglot. If a contract came in from a top guy, a boss or an underboss, Albert would just execute it without thinking twice. If a capo or non-mob businessman wanted a hit done, Albert would run it past Meyer Lansky or Frank Costello, make sure he wasn't stepping on the wrong toes. His organization was supposed to punish insubordinates, not start wars. Albert would later have his own crime family under his control, a huge organization.